All right, starting with our top focus on race to power. After Donald Trump unleashed a storm of executive orders in the first few hours of taking over the presidency, the U.S. judiciary is now gearing up to face a potential avalanche of challenges. In the first of these, 22 states are suing to stop Trump's order blocking birthright citizenship. Now, on Thursday, a federal judge temporarily blocked denying U.S. citizenship to the children of parents living in the country illegally. What is more, in an unrestrained criticism of the presidential order of the U.S. district judge told Justice Department attorneys that it was a blatantly unconstitutional order. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution promises citizenship to those born on U.S. soil. Now, the measure was ratified in 1868 to ensure citizenship for former slaves after the Civil War, and Trump issued the executive order to advance his administration's efforts to curb unlawful immigration just after being sworn in for his second term on Monday. Now, his order will deny citizenship to those born after 19th of February, whose parents are in the country illegally. It also forbids the U.S. agencies from issuing documents or accepting any state document recognizing citizenship for such children. So far, 22 states and a number of immigrants' rights groups have brought 5 lawsuits. The lawsuit brought by Washington, Arizona, Oregon, and Illinois was the first to get a hearing. Experts are also warning of more impending lawsuits over the Trump administration's immigration policy. On Wednesday, the U.S. House of Representatives approved the Laken Riley Act. The landmark immigration detention bill is named after a Georgia nursing student who was killed by an undocumented immigrant in 2023. Now, the legislation aimed at detaining undocumented individuals charged or convicted of non-violent crimes such as theft, passed with bipartisan support. President Trump is expected to sign it into law upon his return to the White House next week. After the passing of the Laken Riley bill, the United States on Thursday returned dozens of migrants to Mexico. Active duty military troops are in El Paso, Texas and San Diego as part of the first batch of the new forces deployed to secure the southern border of the U.S. The Pentagon said about 1,500 troops are being sent to the border this week to enforce Trump's order on an immediate crackdown on immigration.
We're here in an area of San Diego, just west of the San Ysidro port of entry, where not too long ago last year, up to 300 people would gather here each night and wait for days for the Border Patrol to pick them up. Now it's very quiet, and the Border Patrol is back to what they were doing years ago, which is trying to pursue people who are eluding capture, not just find people who would turn themselves in for asylum and get released into the United States.
Now, to discuss this further, Elizabeth Laris, president of E. Laris Consulting and professor at University of Mary Washington, joins me live on the broadcast. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me here on Race to Power. Pleasure speaking with you. Ma'am, can an executive order override constitutional amendments, as is being suggested at this point? Is Trump's order to block birthright citizenship, is it against the 14th Amendment?
An executive order cannot override the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is the law of the land. What Trump is proposing is actually a reinterpretation, going back, honestly, to the original intent of the 14th Amendment. As you indicated, it was passed to give a citizenship as whole persons to former slaves who were freed after the U.S. Civil War. They were only counted as 3/5 of a person for apportionment of representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. So the idea was they needed to be counted as fully persons, not as 3/5 of a person. There's an extremely important clause in the 14th Amendment. It is the subject to the jurisdiction clause, which means that is interpreted as you are here legally and you are obeying the laws of the country. President Trump is taking exception right now to people who are here illegally, who are having children, who are intentionally coming here to have children so they gain citizenship. As a matter of fact, there is an increase in the number of scheduled cesarean sections. That is a planned delivery and birth of a baby before this goes into effect in February, indicating that people really want to make sure that their kids are citizens.
It's definitely causing a lot of harsh decisions being taken at this point. But Elizabeth, I wanted to come to this point next. What the judge said that they could be mulling a preliminary injunction which could be issued by the court. Do you feel that would be enough, or would that be enough to halt this order? And if indeed it is halted by any which way possible, would that be a dent in Trump's, his entire paraphernalia regarding his crackdown on immigration so soon into his presidency?
Yeah, it is a temporary injunction. My understanding it is for 14 days only. As you indicated, this goes into effect February 19th, so it doesn't quite get us up to that date. It does apply, this injunction, this temporary restraining order essentially applies to all states, not just the 22 that brought it forward. And what this is doing is moving the ball along toward ultimately probably a decision by the Supreme Court. Because the injunction will be appealed, it'll work its way up the American appellate court system, possibly to the Supreme Court, where it will be decided if there can be an interpretation of the 14th Amendment to deny birthright status to the children of illegal aliens, or if it will stand as it is understood now, that you just happen to be born here, and then after arriving, you're a citizen.
Elizabeth, I want to now come to the Laken Riley Act. Do you feel it will compromise a legal recourse which would be available to individuals? And can immigrants be deported solely on the basis of accusations without having a single day in court to defend their case?
Sure, and those are two things. Yes, it can compromise their legal avenues. The Laken Riley Act really puts more power into the hands of ICE, that is the immigration authorities, to determine an illegal alien criminal's status. One of the criticisms, of course, the Democratic criticisms, is that the criminals do not have the regular process. They're deprived of the process going through the courts. In the United States, people are considered innocent until found guilty. This just really indicates the sea change in the view of Americans and Congress's view of illegal immigration. Over the 4 years, we saw quite lax control of illegal immigration, culminating, honestly, in President Trump's election. It was his biggest campaign issue. And even Democrats signed off on the Laken Riley Act because they can see that American citizen sentiment has turned so much against illegal immigration that they're willing to go along with this.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me on Race to Power. You've shed a lot of light on all the questions that I posed to you. It would bring a lot of clarity to all our viewers. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.